Touchstones, an in-depth look into Touchstones for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. Touchstones. Each vampire begins with as many touchstones as convictions. Humans who represent what you used to value in life. Someone who represents or seems to incarnate one of your convictions. If lost, the conviction is lost as well. A touchstone must be a living human being, connecting to humanity through the inhumane, is, at the very least, going the long way around. A touchstone might be your surviving human spouse, lover, or parent. This could also be a sibling or other close relative. These people are closest to you and easiest to attach a conviction to. A touchstone might be your human child, or, for an older vampire, a descendant of your family line. A touchstone might be a human who looks exactly like someone you loved in life. This can be anyone from a deceased parent, best friend, lover, or sibling. A touchstone might be a human you admired in life, or their descendant. This could be a favored teacher, a neighbor that you were attached to when growing up, or a local celebrity that you were friendly with. A touchstone might be a human related to someone you killed very early in your own life. Someone you swore you didn't have to kill because you aren't a monster. Not really. A touchstone might be someone you have come to recognize as a rare, decent person, even in your eyes. A volunteer in an animal shelter, a priest, a nurse, a social worker, a nice lady in the neighborhood. This could also be somebody that you had worked with or a family member. A touchstone might be someone who represents something you once held dear in life and still cling to. A soldier, a baseball player, a musician or artist, clergy from your faith. It can be a local celebrity or DJ. As long as it's something that your character once held dear, it's fair game. A touchstone might be someone who guards, symbolizes, or protects a thing that you value. The doorman of the building you used to live in, the cop on your old beat, the crusader reporter, the single mom living in your childhood home, or a caretaker who sweeps your gravesite. If a touchstone is damaged, it causes +1 stain to the vampire. A touchstone that is damaged when something bad happens to them, usually something caused by a kindred or even something stirred up indirectly by the vampire's actions. It's up to the storyteller whether a normal disease or job loss counts as bad in this case. A touchstone is damaged if they change in a way the vampire doesn't approve of. Their widow remarries, the priest leaves the parish, the ball player moves from the White Sox to the Twins. By trying to prevent the touchstone from changing, of course, the vampire may make things bad enough to damage the touchstone anyway. If the touchstone is damaged by your actions, it causes +2 stains. So if directly or indirectly the vampire causes a damage to the stain, it increases. This is why the delicate care of a touchstone is important. If the touchstone is destroyed, it causes +2 stains. A touchstone is destroyed when they betray their convictions, specifically when they betray the conviction for which the vampire values them, when they are killed violently or embraced, or when something truly disastrous happens to them. This means if you have a conviction, I will never kill an innocent, and your touchstone is your close friend that is a police officer, that touchstone shoots and kills an innocent person, they have broken the conviction that you held them to be accountable for and are destroyed. If your touchstone is destroyed by your actions, it causes +3 stains. These actions can be directly or indirectly cause of the destruction of your touchstone. As a storyteller, it's always a good idea to utilize the situation by the character puts their touchstone in. The care of a touchstone should be the character's utmost priority through the character's story. What to do if you lose a touchstone? If, by contrast, your touchstone dies peacefully or just in the normal course of things, you may be able to transfer your fixation to another human connected to them, their child or sibling, their successor in the position, etc. This change requires a humanity test, difficulty 4, while meeting or observing them, and likely requires further story action. Unless you manage to transfer your attention to a new touchstone, your conviction connected to the destroyed touchstone is lost. So, if something happens to a touchstone that is natural or fits into the story, I allow 1 week per level of the character's humanity to find a replacement. An example of this is in a game I had a touchstone that had early onset of Alzheimer's. The player searched for a replacement touchstone while caring for their original touchstone. When the new touchstone was found, the character still spent time with the original touchstone until the touchstone passed away quietly in their sleep. Then the new touchstone filled the conviction. House rules I use. I allow inanimate object touchstones to be taken with the following rules. The first rule is the touchstone must be accessible to the character 30 minutes a night, at which time the character has to look at it or touch it or spend time with it, or risk +1 stain. As a storyteller, I do not make characters actually state this in every game, but they need to reference it when it is fitting. If there's downtime, I may ask them what they did over the past couple of weeks, and this touchstone isn't mentioned, well, I can assume that it's losing importance for the character. My players are pretty good about making habits that they follow with these touchstones, and it helps keep their importance valid in the story. Also, this rule keeps sneaky characters from taking this object and burying it in a safe and having a house built on it so that nothing can ever happen to the object. The second rule to it is no more than one non-human touchstone can be taken. As a storyteller, I can see having an inanimate object as a touchstone, but having more than one would lead me to believe that the character has already lost most of their touch with humanity. 1 out of 3 is definitely enough. And the last rule is the rest of the touchstone rules applies to the non-human touchstones. That would make sense to apply. Damaged and destroyed are going to be a little different for inanimate objects. A ring loses its stone would be damaged, and if that ring is crushed or bent up enough that can never be worn again, that would be destroyed. Now, what objects would make a good touchstone? If you've seen the movie Forrest Gump, the tree that Jenny is buried under would make a great touchstone. That tree was a memorable spot for both characters. The class ring that your boyfriend gave you in high school before they died in a tragic accident, or your deceased wife's wedding ring. Currently, I have a player that chose a notebook that he wrote his original poems in before they were published. The original poems mean something special for him, and he treasures them enough that I accepted it. How to create a touchstone. Just like a background character like ally or retainer, I have the player tell me who the touchstone is, what they look like, and what do they do. There really isn't a need for statting up a character. What conviction does a touchstone represent? Now, this is the main reason for the touchstone that is really important. Not only what conviction the touchstone represents, but why this character represents this conviction. Knowing this will help the storyteller get a good idea on the personality of the character that they have to run. How to use a touchstone as a player. As a player, your character should regularly visit with their touchstones. The touchstone is what enforces their beliefs or convictions that your character has. This touchstone is also what binds you to humanity. Your character can be close to a touchstone and visit and talk regularly or watch from afar. The latter is more dangerous in my opinion, as watching from afar you have no control of that touchstone's life. Yes, there's a need for some control, as if anything happens to that touchstone, it affects your character's own life. Again, if you lose the touchstone, you lose the conviction. Not staying involved could be considered by your actions if something were to happen to your touchstone. As you can tell, being involved with your touchstone life is really important. How to use a touchstone as a storyteller. As a storyteller, you have a little work ahead of you. Each of your players are going to have 1 to 3 touchstones along with the background characters that you have to keep track of. Here are some pointers. Keep a note when or if the player mentions their characters dealing with their touchstones. If they're not keeping up with their touchstones, throw stains at the character. When they don't understand why, tell them that they feel their humanity slipping. They need something to bind them to their humanity. This should be a light bulb above their heads going off to remind them. If they show no care, continue giving them stains and not allowing convictions to ease the pain of any stains gained, then eventually they will get the hint of how important touchstones are. When running a touchstone, just use the information the player gave you. If the conviction that they represent is something like, I will protect the innocent, and they are a lawyer, let that lawyer tell a story about a case where they know the person they are representing is guilty. And if they win the case, the defendant could be drained financially, possibly even ruined. If the touchstone drops his client, he could risk being barred or lose his license. This gives the character a chance to help his touchstone and not risk them being damaged or destroyed. Don't do something like this all the time, just when there's a bit of downtime for the character or it would be dramatically appropriate. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new, or at least give you some ideas that you could try in your own game.